And if you can put your video on, because it's a little better. And then if you also, would you mind putting in the chat where you're coming in from?
Mm-hmm.
And then also mute to start. And then if you don't mind. Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. We'll just start in a few minutes, but if you don't mind putting in the chat where you're coming in from, that'd be awesome. Hayden, Idaho. Hello, Karen. Okay, people are joining. We'll just give it 1 or 2 more minutes. If you're just joining, if you can turn your video on, that'd be great. And if you can't, that's okay. But also put in the chat where you're logging in from would be awesome. And we'll get started in just a minute. Well, I know because I've done this a couple of times now that people log in as we're doing this. So instead of making everybody wait, we could just get started. Recording's on. Okay, great. Thanks for joining. I am Hara Allison, and I'm from Beneath Your Beautiful Magazine and Podcast. And the reason I'm doing this series is because I have learned to love myself in this body exactly the way I am, with the talents I do and don't possess. And I have reached out to people who have helped me, and Gina Hatzis I have followed for many years, and she has very much helped me. And I'm so excited that you all get to hear from her. And I'm so excited that I get to hear from her. So Gina, whenever you're ready, you can get started. And if you need anything, we'll all be on mute until you tell us not to be.
Okay. Well, hello to the 3 of each of you. Hello to the you of the past who brings with you all of your knowledge, your wisdom, your experience, your ideas. Hello to the you of the present who is here to learn and stretch and grow. Thank you for investing time in yourself. And hello to the you of the future. Truly, where all things are possible. So I applaud you. You are the 1% who has carved out time for yourself today. So congratulations on that. I am so over the moon, Hara. Thank you for creating this space for me to talk about one of the most potent things that I've learned. For those of you who don't know me, I am an over 25-year corporate and public speaker. I have been on the stage from very early in my 20s. And I've had the incredible fortune the last few years of touring the world with my Too Much Woman platform. This place that I've come to today to be able to share this information with you is literally the culmination of all of that work. It's all of my life's work on personal development. And it was birthed literally through COVID, when I had a moment to stop and really assess my life. So I'm actually going to give you a slice from a project called Solid Gold, which are my 6 nuggets to living your best life. I'm going to actually offer this to the group at 50% off. So I'm going to give you a slice from that. This is the foundational, most important thing that I could teach you. And thank you, Hara, for giving me this window to just pour into you. If you are here, grab a pen and paper. I'm going to be shooting a lot of information at you. I want to give you as much as you can. And if you are interested, we can reserve some time at the end for Q&A. Let me know in the chat if that's something that you want to do. Otherwise, I'm just going to go. So let's begin with the topic at hand. You know, everybody tells you to love yourself, but nobody tells you how. We kind of just piece together what we think self-love means. We look at other people, or maybe we look at our life, or maybe we look at others that we admire, and we try to glean insight. What does it mean to love ourselves? So what I'm going to do today is not only define that for you, but I'm going to give you some concrete steps that you can move in that direction. I'm just going to ask you guys to mute yourselves so there's no feedback. So let's first demystify self-love right off the bat. Self-love is not a destination. It's not the after picture of your before and after on Instagram, right? It's not this place where you run this marathon run and then you burst through the ribbon and you're like, I've arrived, I love myself. That's actually a misconception. Self-love is the ever unfolding commitment to action. Self-love is the daily conscious choice to have your own best interest at heart. And self-love requires that we take consistent actions, and the key word here is consistent, and I'm going to talk on that, that are going to demonstrate care for and respect for you and yourself and prioritize what's in your best interest. So I'm looking down at my notes because I have a lot of really concrete things that I want to share with you. So number one, you know, wherever you've come on your journey, you know that where you've arrived right now, self-love is action. Loving someone else requires action. Love is a verb. I'm sure you've heard that. So self-love requires action. Self-love does not always feel good. Sometimes you have to make choices that don't feel good, like leaving a relationship or trying something new or putting yourself out there. Self-love isn't always indulgent. It's not always about doing things that help you feel more peaceful or relaxed. Sometimes we have to do hard things. We have to do things that stretch us. And self-love is not always an easy choice. It is built on a foundation of what I'm going to talk about today, which is the crucible, the pillar of self-love, which is self-trust. So grab your pens. I want to ask you, do you trust yourself to have your own back? Do you trust yourself to do right by you? Do you trust yourself to take actions in alignment with your values so you can have the life that you desire? Do you trust yourself to respect and care for and uphold, prioritize your desires? You've heard the saying that all roads lead to Rome. Not all roads lead to self-love, but there are many roads to self-love. But most of them are haphazard. Many of them are accidental or coincidental. Maybe people arrive at self-love because they've had their hearts broken and they have to build from the bottom up. Maybe they arrive at self-love because they've spent their entire life not loving their body and they've had an eating disorder, or they've gained a lot of weight, and that is their road to self-love. But a lot of these bring us through the dark night of the soul and require a lot of pain. So what I'm going to teach you today, I'm going to teach you as much as I can about a path to self-love that is actionable, reliable, predictable, and 100% effective. And the road to self-love is the path to self-trust. So let's talk about and define what self-trust is. And then I'm going to create some actions and activities for you. So here's what self-trust is not. When you hear self-trust, what do you think about? A lot of people think trusting yourself means that things will work out for me. Like, I trust that I'm going to prepare this speech and kill it on stage. I trust that I'm going to start a diet and see it the whole way through. I trust that I'm going to put myself in a relationship and commit 100%, and we're going to be together for the rest of our lives. But that's not self-trust. Self-trust isn't about getting it right. It's not about mastery or perfection. It's not about killing it. I'm going to define it right now for you. So if you're taking any notes, here's where we start. Self-trust is the assured reliance that you will do right by you. Self-trust is the assured reliance that I will have my own back. It is the most self-loving action to take, is to build what I call your self-trust muscle. So most of us, and I want you to think back over the course, the timeline of your life, most of us spend our life listening to other people. We listen to our parents growing up because we're taught that our parents know best. And then we listen to our teachers. And then we listen to bosses, our doctors, experts, the government. We listen to all these other people who tell us what is the most right thing for us. And over time, what happens is our self-trust muscle gets flabby and it weakens. Imagine you had your arm in a cast for weeks, months, years, in some cases for decades, where you haven't really flexed your self-trust muscle because you've spent your life living for other people or living according to societal values or living according to familial values, things that you were told were the right thing to do. And then one day you take the sling or the cast off, and it's hard to trust ourselves. So many people come to midlife or some point in their life where they say, I've lost myself, or I don't know what to do, or I can't decide. And that's because our self-trust muscle is flabby. So we cannot love ourselves when we cannot trust ourselves. Think of any relationship, it's built on trust. So let's talk about some fundamentals. I want to begin by sharing some of the consequences of not trusting yourself, and then we're going to go into some solid ways that you can start to build your self-trust. So if you do not trust yourself, here are some of the consequences, and think about any of those. And if you're watching this in the replay, you can even make a list. Think about any of these that apply to you. If we have low self-trust, we will automatically have low self-esteem and self-confidence. We will be unsure of ourselves. If we have low self-trust, we have a lack of faith in ourselves, in other people, in the world. If we have low self-trust, we have less courage. Low self-trust, we take less risks in our life. We play it very safe. We walk on eggshells. If we have low self-trust, we tend to be more anxious and depressed because we dishonor ourselves. We're living outside of ourselves. When we don't trust ourselves, we tend to be people pleasers. How many of you are people pleasers, are rescuers, are attracted to people who need you, are attracted to circumstances where you are over giving, overextending your love? These are all elements of a lack of self-trust. And we'll talk about why. How many of you have been caught in either the good girl or boy or bad girl or boy scenarios? That demonstrates lack of self-trust. We swing to these extremes of the pendulum. How many of you are dissociated from your body? You feel numb. You don't feel joy. You can't cry. You maybe are in circumstances where you don't feel anything. Maybe you are dissociated from your physical body, and that impacts our sensuality, our sexuality, how we show up in our physicality. That's a consequence of lack of self-trust. How many of you feel lost? Have you said, I have so many people who come to me and say, I feel lost. I feel like I have no sense of direction. Nothing's important to me anymore. If we don't have self-trust, it's hard to trust others. So that impacts our relationship with our romantic partners, with our children, with our friends, with the world. It impacts our business. Our business will suffer if we don't trust ourselves. It impacts our inspiration. I could go on and on. If any of these elements speak to you, here's the really good news. There's something that you can do. And now we're going to talk about it. If you're taking notes, I want you to make a circle. I'm a visual learner. 70% of us are. I need to see it. Make a circle. It doesn't have to be perfect. For the Virgos, you can recreate it later and make it perfectly balanced. And then what I want you to do is I want you to slice up this circle in a whole bunch of slices. So just put a whole bunch. It doesn't matter. The number doesn't matter. So you're just going to literally make some lines through like a pizza or a pie. Everything's food related in my world. Each of these slices represent a different facet of your life. If you need a title, this is the wheel of life. So I'm going to go through and name some different areas of life. Now, if you were to do this exercise when you do it in my course, you're going to customize it based on the things that are most important to you. But for the purposes of time today, what I want you to do is just write these down and you can adjust them later. So you're going to just literally label each one of these slices. And I'm going to go fairly quickly, so hang with me. One slice is going to be health, your relationship with your health, physical health. One slice is going to be your relationship with your physical body. One slice is going to be relationships, and that actually can have subcategories. So that could be romantic relationships, relationships with my kids, with my friends, with my community, with the God of my understanding, with spirituality, relationship with myself. Put whoever you want in that category. Another slice is going to be your relationship to money. So how you spend it, how you make it, your finances. I know I'm going really quickly. Another is going to be your relationship to your job or your business, how you make a living. Your relationship to your passion, which may not be the same thing, and that's okay. That's another slice. Relationship to your passion or your sense of purpose. Another category is creativity. This is a really important one. So it's not just making art, but anything that makes you inspired. It could be gardening, it could be cooking, whatever you consider creativity, dancing. Okay, so I think I've given you enough. We could go on and on. So this wheel represents the different facets of your life. Now, if I were to ask you, if you were coaching with me and I were to say to you, do you trust yourself? That's an unfair question. And the reason is because you'll notice in the wheel that there are some areas that you trust yourself and some areas where perhaps you don't, or some where you trust yourself more and some where you don't. Self-trust, just like self-love, is not black and white. There's a lot of nuance. So what I want you to do as I'm speaking is I want you to go through that list and intuitively, meaning don't think about it. This isn't a neck up exercise, just in your gut, go to each section and you're going to write a number down from 1 to 10 and ask yourself, how much do I trust myself in this area? 1 is I don't trust myself at all, and 10 is I absolutely 100% trust myself. So again, when it comes to health, do you trust yourself to prioritize your health, whatever that means to you? If a 7 jumps out, write 7. If a 2 jumps out, write 2. You can adjust this later. You just want to get an intuitive hit. Go through each category and ask yourself, do I trust myself? How much do I trust myself? And so what you should have around the wheel are various numbers between 1 and 10. How are we doing? Give me a thumbs up if you're doing all right. All right. Okay. I know I'm giving you a lot, but this is going to be really powerful. Now, what I want you to do is put a little star beside the slice that has the highest amount of self-trust. Put a little star there. And I want you to notice the area where you have the highest level of self-trust. You probably also have the highest level of confidence, because self-trust equals confidence. Write that down. This is important. All of you are like, I want to be more confident. This is the answer. So all roads lead to love and confidence. It's the same thing. The area where you trust yourself the most, you probably have the highest self-confidence. The area where you trust yourself the most, you have the highest degree of self-loving behaviors. And the area that you trust yourself the most, you are probably the most satisfied with. So I'm not going to say happiest, because it's not always happy, because sometimes health requires work, but you have the most sense of satisfaction or joy or peace or whatever. Now, conversely, go to the area where you have the lowest number, and the opposite applies. The area where you have the lowest sense of self-trust, you have the lowest confidence. You have demonstrated the least amount of self-loving actions, and you probably have the lowest sense of satisfaction. This is important information. And the reason it's important information is that we want to leverage, we want to understand where we are most self-trusting and where we're not, to apply some of the principles I'm sharing today. The really good news is if you take any area and you improve your level of self-trust, it will bleed into all the other areas automatically. So don't get overwhelmed looking at your wheel. It's just information that gives you a path. So if we were working together, we would start with this frame and we choose an area to focus on. And as you start to build self-trust, self-confidence, self-love in this area, you're going to notice it showing up in your finances, with your body, with your partner, in your business, etc. So the really good news is don't be overwhelmed because they all impact one another. Stay for one more moment with that one area where you have the lowest self-trust. And I want you to write down this question. And if you can answer it as I'm talking or answer it later, the question is, what is the consequence of not trusting myself in this area? What is the consequence of not trusting myself? So if your lowest number was in health, what's the consequence? And maybe there are many. We just want to really get clear. This is what we're doing is mapping. We're figuring out where we are on the map of self-love so we can figure out where we want to go and there's a path. So what's the consequence? What you'll also notice is that there are, as I said before, there's different areas where you trust yourself more. So maybe you trust yourself when it comes to finances, meaning you pay your bills on time. You make sure you always have yourself covered. You work really hard, whatever the case is. But maybe you don't trust yourself when it comes to your body and your feeling and your sexuality. Maybe you trust yourself when it comes to your kids or your pets. You always feed them, you take care of them, you make sure that they're doing well. But you don't trust yourself when it comes to your relationship with your partner or your spouse. So just notice, we're just noticing the different levels of self-trust. How are we doing so far? Give me some feedback. Am I going too fast, too slow, just right? Is this landing for anybody? We're just setting the stage here. Give me some feedback in the chat if you would.
I wish you would repeat the part where you were talking about the low numbers equal low confidence, and then you said it equals something else, and I was trying to write it down, but you said it too fast.
Okay, yes, I am talking really quickly. So low confidence, which equals less self-loving actions.
Less self-loving actions.
Which equals less, I mean, think about when you don't love yourself in one area, you're going to have less peace of mind, less sense of satisfaction, less joy.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Wonderful, thanks for the question. Anybody else have a question? Comment? I'm looking in the chat to see, give me some feedback. How are we doing? Hara says perfect. Let me know if I'm going too fast, too slow, too much information, not enough.
I just assume that you're going to tell us how to get more self-trust in the areas that we have low self-trust in.
I sure am.
Okay.
Nicola, all good, thank you, perfect. Yeah, okay. So where we're going to go now is in the remainder of our time. I'm going to say 20 minutes because I want to leave some time for Q&A at the end. What I want to do is actually the foundation of this course, which is to give you specific ways that you can start to build your self-trust. Now, all the characteristics or the opportunities that I'm going to share with you now, you can apply specifically to any area, to all the areas, but to any one area. So as I go through, I'm going to go through as many as I can because I have dozens, but as I go through all of these different ways to start to build your self-trust muscle, here's your job as you're taking notes. I want you to check in with your body and pay attention to how your body responds to what I say, because some of these things are going to be like, oh, hell yeah, this is where I got to start. Pay attention. This is our first opportunity to practice self-trust. I want you to trust that your body knows what rings true for you. So some of these are going to feel like ding, ding, ding and light up for you. And some of these are not, and that's totally fine. But pay attention to the ones that give you some energy, because that's where you're going to start. Okay, So here we go. I'm going to start off with a foundational one. How do we build our self-trust? This is where we're going now. I'm going to give you a list. Okay. Number one way to build self-trust is to start by prioritizing the truth over goodness. Prioritizing truth over goodness. I'm going to explain what that means. We are raised, I'm going to say we collectively, because it's very, I don't think I've met anyone who this isn't true for. We are raised to believe that what is not as important as truth, or what's more important, pardon me, what's more important than truth are the following things. How many of you were told that it's more important to be good, be a good girl, behave, pay attention, be nice? We have learned that kindness is more important than truth. So instead of telling the truth, it's more important to be kind. We've been told that acceptance is more important than truth. How many of you swallow the truth in order for other people to like you? Maybe not now, maybe not in all circumstances, but in some circumstances. Maybe you prioritize what other people think over what's the truth. I don't want to hurt my friend or my partner, so I'm going to do this thing that I don't want to do. I'm going to go to this thing that I don't want to go to. I'm going to act in a way that doesn't feel true for me, because rather than be honest, I want to be accepted. And maybe we've been told that it's more important how other people feel. Go kiss your aunt. Like, think about when you're a kid. Be nice to your, share with your brother. Like, we're taught over and over to override what's true for us and instead be nice, be kind, and acceptable. Or maybe you were taught that peace is more important than truth. Maybe you had parents, let's say a mother, that role modeled that it's more important to bite your tongue so that there's peace at home or at the dinner table or in any situation, as opposed to speaking up and sharing your feelings. We do this at work. We do this at home. We do this with our friends. We do this on social media. So the reason I start here, and this one is a little bit, esoteric, but the reason I start here is because if we were working together, we would map out all the ways in a day that you override what's true for you, how you feel, what you want, what you think, what your desire is, how you override that. It's an unconscious habit in order to seem nice, keep the peace, make other people happy. Bronnie Ware wrote a New York Times bestselling book called The 5 Top Regrets of the Dying. Powerful book. She was a palliative care nurse. So she sat with people who were on their deathbed and she asked hundreds of them, what are the top regrets? And consistently, number one is what the book, I'm going to ruin the book for you, but it tells all the regrets of the dying. But consistently, the number one regret of the dying is I did not live a life according to what I wanted, but except I lived life according to what other people wanted for me. Number one regret of the dying. This is where truth has been overridden to please other people or to create harmony or because we just aren't paying attention. So the number one way to start to build our self-trust muscle, and if we go back to the wheel, is to look honestly at ourselves. Is to look honestly at any slice of the wheel and ask yourself this question: what truth in this area needs to be declared? What truth needs to be known? So when it comes to finances, what truth needs to be known here? What am I spending my money on and why? What am I prioritizing over my peace of mind and why? When it comes to your health, what truth needs to be known? That I take care of everybody else. You know, there was a time, I have two teenagers, that I would make my kid, I'd cut up veggies for them and make sure that they have all their colors and their food groups and that they're well nourished and drink lots of water and all the things. And then I'd go and I'd like scarf down a bag of potato chips. Like, it was more important that they were okay. So what truth needs to be known? That I don't prioritize myself. It took me 20 years and a lot of therapy to say the words, I'm not happy in this marriage. Okay, so there is a truth that needs to be known, and the truth starts with being honest with yourself. So self-trust, number one, is a big one, but I want it to land first. There's a reason that it's first, is prioritize your truth. And even if that truth is just with you to start, get honest with yourself. Okay, number two, way to build your self-trust is to acknowledge the ways that you do trust yourself. There is we need to strengthen your vibration around self-trust. And the way that we do that is start to acknowledge the ways that you do trust yourself. One of the first exercises I give my clients is to get a journal. And at the end of every day, or at the beginning of the day, at some point in the day, write 3 ways that you have demonstrated that you trust yourself. It could be anything small. I was loyal to a friend. I called a friend when I said I would. I made dinner instead of getting takeout because I made a commitment to myself. I cried today. That's a measure of self-trust. We'll talk about that in a minute. I paid the bills on time. I got a good night's sleep. I put my phone down, stopped scrolling TikTok, and I got a good night's sleep. So what ways do you trust yourself? And the reason this is important is that we need to build a neural pathway in your brain that says, I can trust me, and here's the proof. Because your brain doesn't care about self-love. It doesn't care about self-trust. It doesn't care if you're happy. It doesn't give a rat's ass about your peace of mind. Your brain wants to keep you safe. So it's looking for what's wrong. So we need to create a neural pathway that says, Hara trusts herself, and here's the proof. So every day, if you have a journal and you're writing 1 or 2 or 3 ways that day that you demonstrated self-trust, and the next day when you go back, you see that list growing, and you start to review it, and you look at it every day, and you start to realize how strong you actually are. This is a fundamental element of self-trust, is noticing the way. So you can go back to your wheel and look and say, oh gosh, okay, where do I demonstrate self-trust? Well, I always make sure I wake up and drink a glass of water, or I take the dog for a walk every day, or I pay myself first, or whatever you do. Look for examples of how you trust yourself. And because you've committed to journaling, let's say you just do it for the month of December, it's going to change your brain. Because you've committed to this, what happens is, not to get too geeky on the science, but there's a part of your brain called the reticular activating system, the RAS. And what it's going to start to do, because you're doing this repeatedly, remember, self-love is repeated actions. It's going to start to say, oh, I know she's going to ask me how I trust myself. She's going to do it again tonight. So I'm going to start to pay attention. And it's going to light up that part of your brain, and you're just going to start to notice ways that you trust yourself. Is everybody following? Give me a thumbs up, a hell yeah, a no way. I'll take anything. Big love, strong opposition, whatever it is. Give me some feedback. How are we doing? There is nothing too small on this list. Lisa's saying, hell yeah. We want to create a new neural pathway that says, I am trustworthy. It's going to start to build up your confidence. Thank you, Nicola. Excellent. Okay, so the second way is to acknowledge ways that you do trust yourself, make a list, add to it. It's a great nightly ritual. Thanks, Shelley. Okay, third way to start to build self-trust is to make a list of your positive attributes. Now, I know this sounds so basic, like what, but here's the thing. We have been told, particularly as women, for those who are presenting as women or identify as women, we are socialized to be humble, to dim down the majesty of us, to make small our accomplishments, to shrink our wins, to hide our self-celebration. How many of you have had a success and you have not been able to share it with other people because they either wouldn't understand or would feel threatened, or it wouldn't land right, or maybe you feel bad because they're in a bad situation, or how many of you have dimmed your self-celebration? How many of you feel comfortable saying, yeah, I did that thing? Okay, so this is so important because in order to build self-trust and love ourselves more, we need to start to get clear about why. Self-love isn't just this decision you make, it's concrete. So what I want you to do is write a list of your abilities, your strengths, your talents, your virtues. By the way, if you stumble with this, ask some people, what are my top 5 strengths or talents or virtues or the best parts? And ask people. That's even an exercise in self-trust. Can you do that? What are good decisions that I've made? What are commitments that I've stuck with? What are the efforts that even if you've broken your self-trust, what are the ways that I show resilience? And I keep coming back. And I keep coming back to my meditation practice. I keep saying I'm going to get up and exercise, and I don't, but I keep coming back to it. So you want to list these things, keep adding and revisiting it. It's so important. Humility is the opposite of self-trust, right? So we all just dim ourselves and we make ourselves small. And I want you to celebrate you. Okay, so that's number 3. Number 4. This is so fundamental. I teach a whole corporate course on this. Number 4 way to build your self-trust is to spend regular time doing what you love and what you're good at. Spend time doing what you love and what you're good at. Here's why this is such a game changer. We are raised in a society that values effort and hard work. So we have a kid, I don't know about you, kid comes home with a report card and they have like A's and B's and A's and B's, and then math is like a C or a D. I know we have letters here. I'm in Canada. I don't know what you guys have, but we have, right? So the math comes back and it's low. So but the kids' creative writing is like A+, 100% in creative writing. What do we do with that information? We get a tutor. We give them extra work. They stay after school. We send them to special classes to focus on the math. Why don't we give them a tutor, special classes, and gift them with an opportunity to focus on their creative writing? Why is it that we are not putting people, children, adults, in circumstances where they thrive, but instead we want them to be perfectly balanced? Why is that? There are people that love math. My son is one of them. This is his first year of college and he's going for astrophysics. He loves math. Today he had a calculus exam. Like, ooh, he loves it. So imagine putting him in a room with a bunch of kids who don't love it. They're not interested. Is that fair? How would those other children feel when they see this kid who's knocking it out of the park, 99? My son watches like math video tutorials on a Saturday night. He's 18. So imagine being with that kind of person all the time and struggling. So instead, I go into organizations and I say, why is this person who has such a talent for rallying people and teamwork and camaraderie, why are they working on Excel spreadsheets in the back room by themselves? Why are we not spending more time doing the things that we love and that we're good at? We like to admonish ourselves and whip ourselves into doing things that we hate. Why do we do that? Now, I don't want to make a case for not making yourself better or not growing or not trying to learn stuff. No, not at all. But if that's the priority, we are a society focused on doing stuff we hate. My best friend is a marathon runner. And I was like, oh, I'm so inspired. I'm going to do that thing. I hate running. What? Well, I spent 2 years, 2 broken toes, broke like my hip, like what? She loves it. She gets up in the morning. She's like, I can't wait to run again. Ooh, I don't understand it, but I love to dance. You put my right music on. I'm an oldies baby. I like my old school R&B. You put that music on, I will produce a sweat and I will not stop. I will cook my dinner dancing. I will do gardening dancing like that. That's what I love. So spend more time doing what you love and what you're good at. That builds your self-trust. Doing things that spin your wheels, looking around at other people who are excelling when you're struggling, that breaks your self-trust. Is this landing for anybody? That whole no pain, no gain, we are at an age now, we do not need that. That is old. Life does not have to be hard. We do not have to struggle. Oh, I can go on about this one. It's such a big deal. Okay, let's keep going. Let's keep going. How are we doing? Is this landing for anybody? Okay. I don't know what number one. I think it's number 5. Lisa's saying yes. Thank you for the purple hearts. Okay, I think we're on number 5. Okay, so this is a huge chunky one, but I got to get it in before we go to Q&A. One of the most pivotal, potent ways to build your self-trust is to honor your feelings. Let me unpack this for you. Feelings are information. Feelings are not who you are. We use language that's very self-deceptive. We say, I'm sad, I'm depressed, I'm angry. No. I'm feeling sad, I'm feeling depressed, I'm feeling angry. We over-identify with our feelings, but I want you to hear this. Feelings are information. Emotions are energy in motion, meaning they need to move through you. How does a feeling move through you? If someone betrays you, if somebody hurts you, talks behind your back, breaks your trust, and you have this well of sadness, anger, resentment, but you swallow it, because remember, truth over goodness. Remember, we don't do that thing where, so you swallow it because you learn to keep the peace. You don't want to, and you swallow that truth. Where does that emotion go? It stays in you. That energy stays in you. And that energy is your truth. And it needs to be expressed. Whatever's repressed needs to be expressed. If you do not express your feelings in a healthy way, I'll put a little caveat there, it will express itself in some way. Headache, illness, lower immune system, anxiety, depression. I've had rashes on my body. I've had shoulder pain, back pain, all connect. We know now that trauma in the body is stuck emotion. Okay, watch Gabor Mate. He just wrote a phenomenal new book on this. And so honoring your feelings is a way that we develop self-trust. We have a habit of numbing or overriding our feelings, swallowing it. I had sore throats for 20 years of my life consistently because I didn't tell the truth. I was afraid to tell the truth as a child, as an adult, in my relationship. So I had chronic sore throats. It's energy. The truth is stuck here. And once I made the connection and I made a commitment to either tell the truth to the person or to a therapist or to my journal or to speak it to a friend, I haven't had a sore throat since my early 30s. And as soon as I get that itchiness, as soon as it starts to come up, that's information for me. I'm like, where am I not being honest? And I nip it in the bud. So it will be expressed. So many of us are taught to avoid negative emotions. So imagine when you're a kid and you started to cry because someone took your cookie or you couldn't go to the park. What did your parents or your caregiver say or do? Did they say, stop crying? Don't be so upset. You're overreacting. Go to your room. We are taught that there are bad emotions that are wrong, and there are good emotions that are right. That's bullshit. Emotions aren't right or wrong. They're information. So what we learn as kids is that if I want to stay with the family, if I want mom's love or dad's attention or acceptance or their blessing, I have to override how I'm feeling and pretend to act a certain way. And we repeat this pattern. Whatever we learn from 0 to 7 years old becomes our unconscious. We repeat this pattern. We find ourselves years later in a relationship or a marriage where we don't speak our truth. We don't say how we feel. We don't talk about our desire. How many of us fake orgasms? It's the same thing in the bedroom, in the boardroom. There's so many examples I could give. Okay, so we need to learn to be with and accept how we feel. I'm going to give you a very quick exercise to start. This goes so many layers deep, and I'm going to give you an exercise. Here's what you can do. If this registers for you, if this lit up for you and you're like, damn, I really do override my emotions. I really don't feel. I was on a trip. I will tell you this. 5 years ago in September, I was on a trip to Greece, a dream vacation with 15 family members from all over the world. We planned it for so long. My kids, my ex, my parents, extended family, in the most, arguably the most beautiful place in the world, the most beautiful beaches, the most beautiful sunsets, the best food, everything. I will tell you, I was numb for 2.5 weeks. I felt nothing. I felt nothing. I couldn't feel it. I was like, how can you be in the most beautiful place in the world and not feel it? Because I was in a habit of suppressing my feelings. I wasn't there. I have no memory of it. I want you to know how this seeps into our lives. So if this is you, here's a simple but effective exercise to start. You're going to take your phone and you're going to put the alarm on for 3 random times in the day. So the alarm's going to go off at 9:18 in the morning, at 2:47 in the afternoon, and at 7:43 at night. I don't care. Pick your favorite numbers. Okay. When the alarm goes off on your phone, unless you're driving or doing, in the middle of a meeting, all I want you to do is this. I want you to stop, put your hand on your skin. This creates a chemical cocktail. There's science behind it, but just do this for me. Put your hand somewhere near your heart on your skin. And I want you to ask yourself, how do I feel right now? How do I feel right now? You're just going to name the feeling. You're going to drop into your body and ask yourself, how do I feel? Now, here's a tip. 99% of us have no clue, or there's like 5 feelings we could think of: happy, sad, angry, hungry, horny. I don't know. Okay. I want you to Google a feelings chart. Just Google feelings list, feelings chart. Take a screenshot, put it on your phone. And for the first week or so, I want you to use that list to expand your feeling vocabulary. You're going to get bonus points if you can write the feeling down, because you're going to start to notice patterns. Wow, I'm anxious a lot of the time, or I'm hungry a lot of the time, or I'm lonely a lot of the time. You're going to start to notice patterns. So rewind. All you're going to do, put the alarm on. You're going to check in with yourself and ask, how do I feel? Check that list. Oh yeah, that's how I feel. You're just going to know. This is an exercise in building self-trust, because when you drop down into how you feel, you are pausing and you are sending a message to yourself saying, Gina, I love you. You're important to me. I'm taking this moment to ask you how you feel, and be patient with yourself to get the answer. Imagine 3 times a day looking at yourself, being with yourself and saying, how are you doing? And fine is not an answer. How are you doing? That is an exercise in self-trust. If you want someone to know that you love them, look them in the eye, put everything down, lean in, make eye contact. How are you doing? How are you feeling? And wait. Let them share it with you. So we can do that with ourselves, start to build our self-trust, send ourselves the message that we are important, how we feel matters. And this is a way that we can start to come back to the body and get out of our head. Now, although I have about 15 other examples, I think this is a good place to kind of stop and maybe do some Q&A and get some feedback. I don't want to overwhelm you. Hopefully I haven't done that. But I would love to clarify anything or take any comments or questions.
I have a question. So a friend upset me, but I never said anything. So is that stuffing it? Or the reason I didn't say anything is because I'm only responsible for myself.
Yeah.
Not what she did or didn't do. She disappointed me. She didn't do anything mean to me. She just disappointed me. So what about that? Like, I trusted myself to just handle it, but it seems like it is still living in my body.
Yeah. So first question is, what's the consequence of not saying anything? So is the consequence of not saying anything that you keep the peace with her, but you hold this resentment? Is the consequence of not saying anything that she's going to do it again? Is the consequence of not saying anything that you are sending the message to yourself that this really hurt me, but I'm going to let people do what they want and not let them know how it affects me. So the first question is, what's the consequence of that? And if the consequence is something that doesn't feel good for you, then it's worth either saying something like, this happened a month ago, and my intention is just to let you know how I feel. I care about this relationship. You're important to me. And I know that you care about me and you'd want to know how I feel. So it's just owning the feeling.
Okay. I think that's really wise because it is, I can still feel like when you said it's still in your body, it doesn't go away. I think that's really right.
Yeah. And then it impacts, like we do this in relationships with our partners too, right? Like we swallow this, we swallow that, we swallow this, but over time that building resentment will be expressed. It's like that beach ball, we try to hold it underwater. And then at some point it's going to come up. And all of a sudden we're yelling about socks on the ground. It's not the socks on the ground. We're yelling about the last 3 times that they didn't, whatever, follow through on something. So there are consequences. It's a great question.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nicola wrote in the chat if you want to read that.
Okay. I often have many mountains to jump over to know what I feel. It takes me so long to work it out. So let me just clarify. What you're saying is, I have a hard time figuring out how I feel. Is that correct? Can you just give me a yes or no? Like when you ask yourself, how do you feel? You're not so sure. Or clarify for me. Did I get that right? Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. So this is very normal. The module that I teach after this one is about intuition. It's demystifying intuition and understanding that it's an extension of self-trust. But the reason I share that with you is that we have a knowing. There's a part of you that knows how you feel. Okay. And the part of you that knows how you feel doesn't feel safe to express it because for so long it's been ignored or reprimanded. So imagine you ignore someone for years and years and years, and then you say to them, so tell me how you feel. They'll be like, right? So here's the really good news. It's some of the practices that we talked about are going to help you. When you start to develop and heal your relationship with self, and let me explain what I mean by heal. This is really important. I think disconnection swelling. Yes, absolutely. That's why. So using any of these practices are going to start to heal your relationship with yourself. But I want to just define heal because a lot of people think I'm broken. I need to heal myself. Here's a definition of healing, right? Healing means wholeness. So each one of us, every time we have felt a certain way, but said something different, every time we've been hurt, but swallowed it, every time we've wanted to say no, but we said yes. What we've done is we've created a fragment within ourselves. It's called fragmentation psychology. So we've split ourselves. So there's a part of us that's like no, and the part of us that says yes, because it feels good to please people, or a part of us. So what happens is we have all of these splits. Healing or wholeness just means coming back together. Right? It's bringing all those parts back together. And the way that we do this is by building our self-trust. It's trusting ourselves to be in integrity. Integrity means whole. So I don't want to make this wrong for you. I want to normalize it, Nicola, and tell you that this is all of us. And so the way to start to claim that back, and I would actually go back to the wheel. I would do 2 things. I would look at the ways that you do trust yourself. Do that exercise every day. Start to look at ways that you do trust yourself because you want to build that neural pathway in your brain that says, I'm trustworthy. Look at all these freaking things that I do. So you can start to build your trust. But the second thing I want you to do is look at that area, one area where you have low self-trust, and make a list. What are some examples of ways that I can start to build self-trust? So the 5th element, the 5th golden nugget in my program is literally that, how to build habits to build your self-trust. So I want you to look at, let's say you don't trust yourself when it comes to your health. Then you can say, well, one of the things I can do is every morning when I get up in the morning, I will have a glass of water beside my bed. And I do not go pee, brush my teeth, Step out of bed until that glass of water is done. That is an exercise in self-trust. You're going to start in small ways to build that back up. And that's going to impact every other area of your life. Hopefully that helps. Anybody else? Wonderful. I'm so glad.
Just remember to talk about your offer and put it in the chat, for the link in the chat, if you don't
Okay,
mind.
I'll put it quickly in the chat. So the reason, let's see if I can do this. Okay, I think it's in there. So I'm offering, I don't know if it comes up, but I have a program called Solid Gold, and it's literally the 6 principles of building your best life. It's over 28 years in the making. I have it half price for this group for anybody who came through on this experience. This self-trust is just module number 3. It's Solid Gold nugget number 3. I haven't even gone through all of it, but it comes with worksheets. So you can go at your own pace, you can go slowly, and you can start to build out the life that you want. What I want you to understand, I guess if there's anything I want you to take away, is self-love can feel like this negligible, like it's hard to touch. It's almost like ethereal thing. And we get really frustrated because it's like, I want to love myself. I want to feel good. I want all of these things. And I want to give you a path. I want to give you some actions that you can take, and you can start to see movement on your wheel. So they're doable. They're doable. Any other comments, thoughts, questions, strong oppositions?
This was awesome. Thank you.
Wonderful. My pleasure. My pleasure. I know I gave you a lot of information in a short amount of time, and I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. Literally, before you pack this up, I know we're out of time, but you've invested this hour in yourself. So I highly encourage you. It's Friday. Before you fold this book up, just look at one thing, put a circle around one thing, and commit to one thing, just one. And just start to look at ways that you can commit just for the month of December. We got a couple weeks left. How can you prioritize that one thing?
Do you see what Lisa wrote?
I was always taught it was rude to speak your truth. Yeah. So if we had more time, there's lots of speaking. A lot of people think speaking your truth means to say whatever you feel and to blurt it out. And it's too bad. It's my truth. Deal with it. But there's a lot of nuance there. Obviously, I don't want to speak the truth all the time to my kids. They don't need to know everything that I don't need to speak the truth all the time to everyone all the time. So when you speak your truth, it's not always to that person. So in the case of Hara, maybe this is her boss that she's dealing with. And maybe she doesn't want to get into all the things her boss did because it might impact the relationship. She can say how she feels, but the truth needs to be expressed somewhere. So it could be to a therapist, it could be to your journal, it could be to a friend or a partner. But overriding your truth and pretending it doesn't matter consistently over time will break your own heart. So there's a lot I could say about that. But yeah, truth doesn't always need to be spoken fully to a person, that person. And it doesn't mean you have to say everything. And of course, there's how you say it as well, which is a whole nother element that I teach. But great question. Comment.
I'll send everybody a replay of this along with the link that you included. And
Wonderful.
is the link, does that, what is that? Is that a bunch of modules that you go through at your own pace?
Yeah, so it's 6 modules. It's normally $199. I have it $99 for this group. What is it? It's 6 videos, 6 1-hour videos with worksheets.
Okay.
So I kind of drip them out. You can have them all at once if you want, but it's a video of me talking just like this. And then you have a worksheet that you work on. So it's self-study, self-directed. And believe me when I say I have clients that revisit it over and over again because they're pillars, right? They're pillars. They're great to share with a partner or a friend. You can get a little group of girlfriends together and work through 1 module a month. This will change the course of your life because it's the fundamental principles. I'm so excited about it.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for sharing that with us too. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Does anybody have any questions? Oh, good.
Oh, I'm so happy to hear it. Thanks, Nicola. What beautiful words.
Okay, so I'll send everybody a follow-up email. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. And
Bye, everybody.
yeah,
Have a
send you.
great holiday. Big love. Reach out to me on socials if you have any questions.
Thank you. Thank you, Gina. Bye.
Bye.